Hi folks, I just want to talk about Hitchens just for a minute and just tell you what I think honestly about Christopher Hitchens. I just watched a debate a couple of days ago of Hitchens and also a few other clips. I just want to share with you that I do think that a lot of his style of argumentation was exactly that. It was style. I don't think there was much substance to what actually Hitchens was saying. I think it was more his ability to act, his ability to project emotion, and his ability to use language that got him through in his debates. I'll illustrate that on a few things. He said quite a bit about this issue of Hitler not being an atheist but being a Christian, and he would talk about how the Nazis were Catholics, many of them, and were God-fearing and things like that. But he he was well aware of the intellectual developments of the West. He was well aware of that. So he was not being honest when you think about the 19th century was absolutely saturated in Europe with anti-Semitism. And it was the secularist anti-Semitism that was growing leaps and bounds in the 19th century. So yes, there was an anti-Semitism throughout history because of certain church leaders or certain church affiliates, but there was most definitely in the 19th century a deep-seated anti-Semitism growing amongst the intelligentsia, which was nothing to do with Christianity at all, and that dovetailed into the early 20th century. And so Christopher Hitchens was not intellectually honest about those influences on Germany. The other issue was Nietzsche did have an influence on Germany and did have an influence on Hitler, and that is another aspect of the equation that Christopher Hitchens never took into account or just kept under wraps. And then the third issue is he would wax eloquently about how the Catholic Church give Hitler the carte blanche to go off and do whatever he did. Fails to inform people how that there were many evangelicals in Germany who fought tooth and nail to try and stop Hitler, and one of them was Dietrich Bonhoeffer. So what I'm saying is the whole issue about Hitler, was he an atheist or was he a Christian? I think there's from a Catholic perspective, there was absolutely no doubt that he was not a Christian. There's no doubt about it that he was using religion as a cloak, as a way of manipulation. And thirdly, there's no doubt that there was a number of streams that were flowing into Hitler that had nothing to do with religion, that moved him towards the way he treated Jews and his expansionist pro-Aryan agenda. So I would say that Hitchens was guilty of portraying a simplistic argument when probably he knew the complexities of what I've just told you. The second issue is Pascal's wager is a perfect example of Hitchens having style, his language being one of extravagance in communication, in debate, but actually lacking the intellectual subtlety and finesse that was required when talking about Pascal's wager. So for example, Hitchens has been on record to say Pascal's wager is about what have you got to lose? If you're trusting in God, if you believe in God, what have you got to lose? And kind of would set up the Pascal's wager as something like that. But if you read Pascal's apologetics, the big thing that is key to understanding Pascal's wager is the issue of eternity. And what Pascal's wager was trying to show is that from Pascal's perspective, it was absolutely certain that we would end up in eternity, that we were eternal beings. This was an absolute certainty, right? From his perspective, this is how he saw it. But if we take the position that there is no God, then we're saying that we're finite and that's going to end. And as far as Pascal was concerned, that was just completely, as far as he was concerned, illogical and an impossibility. But for him it was a certainty that there was an eternity and that we were eternal beings. So his wager comes in that context. What have we got to lose? What have you got to lose if you believe in God? Because you are an eternal being and you will go on for eternity. So you've got nothing to lose. Whereas if you go for the finite situation, you have everything to lose, because we are eternal beings. That was the context of. Now, how he comes to the conclusion about there's an eternity is a complex thing that you can go and read his apologetic writings, and you can get to grips with that question. But the issue is this: is that if you don't grasp Pascal's concept of eternity, finite, infinite, and the finite, if you don't get some idea of that, you can't really understand Pascal's wager. And Hitchens never really grasped that. He presented the Pascal's wager, and not only him, but the academic community even today, the scholars of today. If you go on to Stanford Philosophy Encyclopedia, which is an eminent resource, even they present Pascal's wager in the way that Hitchens would. But scholars have not really got Pascal's wager in the context of what Pascal was actually saying. What we see today in modern times is a caricature of Pascal's wager, and Hitchens was parroting a caricature Pascal's wager, and then he would bury the wager with kind of derogatory language, saying, what kind of a wager is that? I mean, wouldn't God want me to really believe him, not just because I was seeing it as a good bet type of thing? And he would kind of overemphasize with this kind of language. So that's the second point, the lack of understanding Pascal's context in the Pascal's wager. The other thing that I found interesting is when he's talking about the cross, and he would say that it absolutely is immoral. And surely he would have known about the is or distinction there. How do you get morality from the is to the ought, from nature to human action and value? In other words, that you can't get morality from nature. And him being an atheist, and therefore being a materialist, would know that you can't really talk about morality. So for him to say the cross is immoral, what criteria does he have for that? Or what criteria did he have for that? So again, it's more style rather than substance. Those are just three things that come to my mind about Hitchens, but I definitely feel that he got away with things when he was speaking, not because he knew what he was talking about. He sounded as if he knew what he was talking about. I mean, he was really using sort of neo-Marxist ideas about religion. It was kind of neo-Marxism, and he was using that as a critique. And he definitely had an agenda of a political agenda, where he had this kind of anger and bitterness towards Christianity, where he just wanted to obliterate it politically. And it comes out so clear when he's talking about Jesus. I mean, when he's talking about Jesus, he had the audacity to say that Jesus was immoral because he didn't believe in certain things. And yet, if he was intellectually honest, even if he didn't believe in Jesus, he surely would have had to admit that even the enemies of Christ throughout history have said great things about Christ, so that Hitchens could only see a negative in Christ would show that he was completely obsessed with this political agenda, and so couldn't look at Christ or anything else about religion in any objective way. Those are my thoughts, but a thoroughly entertaining person. I will give you that. Okay. Thank you for listening. Take care.